a Sapphire Running Zone podcast.
Hi everyone, this is Tim from the Sapphire Running Zone, and this is another in our Runner Stories podcast. Now, Frank had a very interesting challenge, and we'll hear about that shortly. So, delighted to welcome you, Frank. Just give us a bit of a recap what we were planning at the time, and what happened.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me back. And yeah, good to see you again, Tim. So, yeah, for a brief recap. So, basically, I have been working on a fundraiser and a fundraising challenge for a very important cause and a dear cause to me, which is Young Lives versus Cancer. And I had the idea uh, to run 3 half marathons in the space of a month's period. So I had a half marathon month for Young Lives versus Cancer.
And those 3 races were?
So they were, first of all, it was starting with my local one in Biddeford, where I live in North Devon. So that was the Biddeford half. So then a week after that one, I had the Bath half. Then I had a little bit of a break, had a week off with no running or no half marathon races at least, just a bit of training. And then I rounded it out with my final one on the 6th of April, which was at London Landmarks half marathon.
Yeah, and that's obviously one of the big ones. So let's treat this like a bit of a race report, a podcast race report then, Frank. So give us a bit of a run through what it was like. What was it like when you first got there? Obviously this is a big race. And I mean, Bath was a big race, but not as big as this one. So what was it like and what were the differences between it and Bath?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you say, across the 3 of my races, it got progressively bigger and busier, which was the ideal way for me, to be honest. So yeah, Bideford, there's some great support, but it was relatively local and relatively quiet. And then Bath, I'd say it's one of the more famous half marathons, I think, in the UK these days. And it was the support I felt was night and day there compared to Bideford. Obviously, you got people cheering you all the way around, and that made a big difference. Ran that in Biddeford and managed to get a new PB of 2 hours 27 minutes, which I was really pleased with, and just pleased to get round, to be honest. And then at Bath, I was hoping to do a bit better. And again, as much as anything, yes, I'd had the one run under my belt, but also I think the support factor played a big part. And I managed to improve on my time again at Bath, and I got the 2 hours 22 minutes in that one, which was more than I'd anticipated. I was going to be happy to get similar, or maybe 30 seconds quicker than I'd done in Biddeford. So really pleased with that. And then obviously it was building to the main event, really, as you say, at London Landmarks. In terms of my journey there, I arrived in London the day before. Sorry, I arrived in London on the Friday before, Friday evening, and spent the next day just with some friends and family in the area. My biggest focus was carb loading those 2 days, so made sure I fueled up plenty. And then on the morning of, basically, my wife and I were staying in a hotel not too far away over at Marylebone, so fairly central and about 25 minutes on the tube to the start line. So that morning, woke up early, hopped on the tube in my full gear. I feel a bit sorry for some of the other people on the tube, because I had the lovely combination of Vic Vapor Rub on my chest and Deep Heat on my legs, which is a potent mix. So I was checking that we had the app where you could, for my wife and family, to check where I was around the course on the day of the race. But I think she may have been able to just smell me, to be honest, from the deep heat. Got on the tube, walked down from Pall Mall along to the start line, which was by Trafalgar Square, and it was straight away as soon as you're off the tube and you come up, the amount of people everywhere, you realise you're a much bigger event than the other two. As I say, Bath is a fantastic event in its own right, absolutely, and I'd recommend it to anybody. But London landmarks and being in the centre of London for this is nothing quite like it, to be honest. Not that I've done, at least. So yeah, such a positive, upbeat atmosphere. Loads of people around. I managed to spot some of my friends from our local running club who were also running that race for a different charity. So I joined up with all of them at the start line in our wave. Thankfully, we were all in the same wave. So there, you're all packed in. So many people packed in together right the way along the street leading up towards Trafalgar Square, along by Whitehall. So, as I say, the atmosphere from the starting point is fantastic. You've just got music playing, getting everybody going. We had Dame Kelly Holmes there to start us off and set everybody off on the race as well, which was cool. But yeah, you can just feel everybody's kind of raring to go. So we're just kind of doing our stretches and listening out for the next announcement, basically. Yeah, once that time came, it was very exciting. So we started as soon as the buzzer went off to set us off. We started off the route in a reverse of the course from last year, actually. So it was a little bit different from what I'd done the year before. And at the start of the race, we actually run down the road and across Westminster Bridge to start with. So right away, you're seeing one of the most iconic sites, not just in this country, probably in the world, isn't it? So it's quite an amazing sight. Obviously, aside from anything else with on race day, Tim, as well as anybody, when you're starting a race, the adrenaline pumping and everybody's raring to go. I've always found it tough and continue to find it tough not to go off too quickly. So we ran across from the start line, across the bridge, and then doubled back again into the city centre. And then say last year, I'd run the course, and aside from being in a onesie, I'd gone off far too quick, to be honest, and I paid for it later in the race. So this year, and with a bit more practice and races under my belt, I decided to be a bit more strategic with my pace planning and everything, and I was sure I wasn't going to go off so quick at the start. Worked out my splits for what I would hope to aim for, and I'd worked out basically if I was going to try and get a significant PB, and so an optimistic PB for me would have been 2 hours 15 minutes. Then we started coming up towards Tower Hill and going past the Tower of London. And this was a part of the course which I personally remember from last year doing it being a very tough part of the course, to be honest. It's a relatively flat course in London, landmarks, but there are the odd inclines and they really they can catch you out, definitely, especially when you've been getting a little bit more comfortable on the flat. Last year, it was killer for me, particularly because it was the other way around the course, and it was probably like mile 10 or 11 that we suddenly all had to go uphill, and we were seeing a lot of people suddenly, myself included, dropping off and trudging up the hill, walking, and then starting up again. There's some fantastic sites. You go past Bank of England, and you go past the Gherkin, and you go down Fleet Street and all these iconic places in London. But obviously, people are so tired, and B, for me, I'm so you get to that point like in any kind of long distance like this, where you're just kind of locked in your own little bubble to a degree, and so I tried to enjoy the sights as much as I could, but also a lot of them aren't at eye level necessarily.
Now, I think this is an issue with running in city centre races, particularly. I mean, a lot of people who do the London Marathon or do London landmarks, it is an issue because it's pretty much wall to wall famous sites. And
Yeah,
to be honest, there comes a point where you're just like, yeah, I just don't really care about it anymore. I just want to finish, and sometimes, like you say, you can't actually see them at eye level. You've almost got to be looking up and around to actually see them. It's okay if they're in the distance, but sometimes when you're right next to them, you can't see them. And I think, it's a shame. You want to absorb everything on the course, but as you say, sometimes you're just so focused on doing what you've got to do, whether it's just finishing or whether it's focusing on the time, which means that pretty much every mile you've got to be checking where you are, checking whether you're on track, and that's why sometimes when you're doing these races, you've almost got to just relax and say, actually, this is about absorbing what's around me. But that's not always easy, particularly if you think you're on for a good time. You then start thinking, well, hang on a second, if I push it a little bit here, I could get the PB, which is it's a big deal. So how did that continue then?
Well, that's it. That's it. You're exactly right. And there were some friends of mine. Some of those they were in that camp, as you say, of they're fortunate that they have run it so many times now. And so some of them this year, some of them were going for PBs, but others were going, right, we're just going to enjoy the day and take it in and go at a good pace, but kind of just enjoy the sights a bit. And there were a couple in particular that I think in the last mile, they decided they were going to wait for a couple of the others in our group, and they spotted one of our spectators who were supporting us, and they went over to them and they passed a can of lager and a can of cider each, whilst they were waiting for the other two from the running club to catch up so they could finish together.
That's certainly a nice relaxed approach to doing a half marathon in London, isn't it?
Yeah, so that was a different kind of hydration station. Not, and I got to be honest, it was a bit different to the way I was approaching it today. I was definitely trying to see if I could do my best and do my fastest. To be honest with you, it was a fantastic atmosphere, and there are so many sites. But as I say, you are if you are going to be going and focusing on a time, you got so much else to focus on. You're looking at your watch, you're checking out, making sure you don't trip over anybody's water bottle or gel packet that they've dropped or anything like that, or pothole. So, and that was another thing that was key for me. I'm relatively new to running and doing long distance running. I've in years gone by, I've done more playing squash or doing seven-side football or something like that. But I've started like properly running in the last kind of 2.5 years now. So I'd been properly running for about a year when I did London Landmarks last time. And I'd kind of gone in with not so much idea or strategy, very little. And so this year it's a very different story. So I had a much clearer this year on my pacing strategy and my my planning for all of that, but also my fueling. I said about the carb loading being that was something I was very much making sure I took seriously and had the right fuel in me in the couple of days leading up. Um, but also on the course as well, I'd made sure I had and had looked up what kind of strategy to take with taking gels as well. I think the rule of thumb I'd seem to come across was one gel every half an hour, as long as you're running on a long run like it. So for me, thinking I was probably going to be doing it in maybe 2 hours 20, 2 hours 15 if I was lucky. I think I took 4 or 5 gels in my pocket with me, so I had enough.
Yeah, that sounds like the right ratio. What was the provision of water and sports drinks and gel like on the course? Were they every couple of miles, the water stations?
The water stations, yeah, they were pretty good. I think the water stations were kind of every I think they're every 3 or 4 miles or something like that. I think it was mainly water. I think there might have been one that I saw handing out gels, but I missed that one to be honest. But I'd got I'd got my own in my pocket anyway, so I wasn't too worried about it. But I think on with the weather being what it was on the day, which was really sunny, I made sure to grab a water at every one basically.
You should be just sipping water at every available station, so you did the right thing there. You don't want to be drinking the whole bottle or the whole cup, but you should be sipping water. So on the course then, what would you say is your favourite part, your favourite landmark?
There are a couple really. I think I think the obvious ones are right at the beginning is particularly special. A, because of where you're starting, just the atmosphere generally when you're starting there is fantastic, and it's nothing quite like where, when everyone just suddenly shoots off and you're all full of beans, and it's infectious, that energy. So that was a particular favorite part, and also combining that with straight away you're in the landmark deep end, I suppose, and you've got uh, you know, Westminster and Big Ben, and you're going right past it. So that was pretty iconic, and yeah, a favourite. I think I say once you're running and you're getting into it, you're kind of suddenly getting a little bit more blinkered, as we've said, and you're not taking them in quite as much or appreciating them as much as you might. But I loved going past. It was great going past like the Bank of England and St Paul's Cathedral. Just it's quite a unique feeling to be just running down those streets and running down the middle of the road like that in central London. I think it brings it home when you do see something like St Paul's Cathedral or Big Ben or whatever. But just generally, the whole way through, I had moments of just thinking, this is a bit surreal in some ways for somebody who's never done it to think, you know, if anybody's ever been in central London on a given day, you know how packed it is with cars and traffic constantly. And so the fact you're running around these streets totally and you're allowed and there's no cars, it's quite a strange and special experience. Yeah. And then obviously the finish coming in at Trafalgar Square and seeing Nelson's Column, just coming up that road and looking ahead and seeing Nelson's Column right near the finish line. That was definitely a sight for sore eyes, and it was a good boost to see that, and kind of a good light at the end of the tunnel. I think the start was on Pall Mall, and kind of Whitehall area basically, which is pretty near to. It's not far. It's kind of a couple of streets over from Trafalgar Square itself. So when I first got off the tube, I think we got off the tube at Piccadilly and we wandered down to Pall Mall, which is 5-10 minutes maximum walk, and then they had all double-decker red buses parked all the way down Pall Mall, and they were the bag drop-offs. And they locked everyone's bags on the buses, basically, which, again, it's little things like that nice touches as well for people. You've not just got people. It's not just a local race. People from all over the world, not just in the UK, coming. And again, it's just a very London touch to add to it, to be seeing some of those iconic sites all part interwoven through the whole experience in the day. So, as I say, I was aiming to try and get to 15, and I did get a PB, I'm pleased to say. And in the end, I got a PB of 1 hour, 54 minutes and 7 seconds.
1 hour 54. Crikey, you did go a bit quicker than Bath. Wow, that's really good.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So, what, 28 minutes quicker than I'd done it 2 weeks before in Bath, basically.
How much of that would you put down to the environment, the crowd, just being part of a really big event? Or do you just think it was a culmination of your training, or a bit of both?
I think it's a lot of things all come together at once. I think with my fueling, I tried to fuel and carb load and get that right with the other races. Also, with the benefit of practicing it basically with the other races, I probably fueled better in the days leading up and on the day, making sure to take those gels before I get tired, rather than thinking, oh, let me hold it off and see if I can wait. Because by the time I'm tired, the gels, they're not going to do such a good job. So the fueling made a big difference in that, and uh, the atmosphere was absolutely key as well. I had also, I have to say, I did also um, have a newer pair of shoes on, which were a bit lighter than my other ones as well. So they definitely helped me. I don't think I could say any one of those things probably could have done the 28-minute difference on its own. That and yeah, having the extra freshness, I think, from the other races being under my belt, and I lots of training and lots of prayer as well. I definitely think that got me round. But yeah, I was absolutely delighted with it, as you can imagine. Yeah, so the fundraising, to recap again, I had initially set a target of £550 to raise across the 3 races, basically, which was a bit more than what they ask you to pledge, basically, if you get a charity place with Young Lives vs Cancer. So I thought I wanted to at least go for that. I'd already hit that uh, by the time I'd done Bath, or shortly after Bath. I'd managed to hit my target, I'm pleased to say. But so after that, in the lead up to London, I upped my target again, um, and upped it to 750. That then got hit in the lead up, which I was delighted with. So I thought we'll up it again. Basically, I think you advised me that. I think as well, which was a top tip, Tim. It was. I thought, yeah, definitely, it's worth me upping it to try and encourage people. I don't want them to think I've just hit it and then not bother. Oh, that'll do. I thought for the cause that it is. So I upped it, and in the end, with a bit of help from my fundraiser at church recently as well, my local church, they helped to support. I have now, as it stands, raised a total of £1,414.20.
That is fantastic. For an
Yeah.
initial target of 550, you're over 1,400. You must be thrilled to bits with that, and the same with the charity. They'll be delighted.
Yeah, I really am. After this call with you, actually, they're my next call to let them know that I've got that update. Because it's not updated all on my online page yet, because it's been influx of cash donations, from the event that we had basically on Palm Sunday with the church. So they were very generous. They gave me the opportunity to talk before they had a concert on Palm Sunday, this past Sunday, and I talked a bit about the cause and what I've been doing for the challenge, and yeah, they were unbelievably generous at that. So yeah, delighted with it. Really am. I couldn't believe it.
So that's a combination then of social media and a physical event. So it's good to be able to do 2 or 3 different things, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's it. It's been a lot of social media sharing on Instagram and things, and obviously just sharing on Facebook and WhatsApp to my friends and family, and even a bit of LinkedIn. Although I don't know if LinkedIn's generated any donations. Unfortunately, must do better, LinkedIn. But and then yeah, we had the event with the church. So yeah, definitely, I'd recommend. It's good to have a bit of a multi-pronged approach when you're fundraising.
Definitely. Well, that's tremendous. Highly successful campaign. So what is next for Frank?
I think for me, there's been eyeing up a few different things. I think definitely I'm going to be doing more half marathons, and I'd love to do some more events for charity as well. But to have to give people a rest on that in my circle for a little bit before I tap them up for more donations for whatever the good cause might be. But yeah, I've got a 10K which I'm running locally, but then um, I'm I'm eyeing up, as long as I stay injury free, there's a triathlon in June, which is a sprint triathlon, which I'm looking to hopefully try and do. Which would be the first time I've ever done anything like that. Um, so we'll have to see. I haven't entered yet because I'm trying to work on my training for that first with the multi-discipline. Being very run heavy lately, I haven't really done any swimming or much cycling lately, so we'll have to see with that one. But I have also been talking to some friends who I know who have done a full marathon in the past, and I am eyeing potentially doing a full marathon next year. So I'm going to be entering the ballot for London, but I'm also looking at some other options as well to see what other options potentially I might have. So not to put all my eggs in one basket, but it's quite a daunting prospect, but it is something I am getting increasingly excited about doing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think you should give it a go. Most definitely. I think yeah, a few more half marathons is great, but then yeah, it's like the ultimate running challenge. You do a half and think, right, I should do a marathon. Then you do a marathon, all of a sudden the world of ultra marathons opens up.
Yeah, I know. It's a slippery slope, isn't it? There's always a higher mountain, isn't there?
Absolutely. Well, look, you've done an amazing job. I think to take that off your PB is well, that's huge. That's a massive percentage to take off, and then to set yourself a target of 550 and end up with over 1400 is again, it's a fantastic achievement. So, congratulations on that, and we look forward to an episode with you when you start your marathon training.
Sounds good. Sounds good to me.
I appreciate you taking the time, Frank, and we'll catch up with you again soon.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks for listening to this Sapphire Running Zone podcast. Keep checking back as we have lots more podcasts coming soon.